on the website, you got to go to the website and click the button that the first thing you see to sign in for this meeting. It's very, very important. Are we on the Zooms? Do the Zoom people hear us? Marcus? Yes? Okay. Oh, I need to have my little thing. Sorry. All right. Very important. Because moving forward, if you don't sign up on the sheet, you don't get credit for the CEs. So we've been generous in the past with people calling a week or 2 weeks after saying, hey, I forgot to sign the page. I was there. We're not going to do that anymore. So you have to get on there. This is the announcement. We'll announce this every meeting, but please get on the website and just click the button and fill out the I was here page.
It's on GARR website.
The GARR Network, THEGARR network.org. You should already have that saved in your bookmarks because it's the most important website in your life. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that the same as the RSVP, like when I RSVP?
That is not. There are two different forms. When you RSVP, it's an RSVP. Thank you for that question, because just so you guys know, like the routine, it's very important that you fill out the RSVP because number one, that helps us kind of get a feel for how many people are going to be here for lunch. Also, there's always a question on the RSVP, and many people do participate, but if everybody participated, that would be awesome, because what that question is something pertaining, or a question pertaining to what the training is going to be. So it's an opportunity for you to ask a question that might be, I have a question about what the topic's going to be. And we send that to the presenter the day or two before this event so that they can try to incorporate some of those questions into their presentation. Okay? It also gives us some information about maybe other trainings, right? So it's just a great way for us to get some feedback from you guys. So RSVP is important. It gives us a head count for who's going to be here. But then when you get here, then you have to sign up to get the CEs. Okay? Clear? As a bell? Awesome. All right. Let's go eat, and then we'll do other announcements before we get into the training. So, and we'll probably have Jay's place come up and do a little talk about the facility that you're in right now, which is a fantastic, beautiful place. Jay's place not only sponsored and gave us the ability to come in here and take their place over for an afternoon, but they also sponsored lunch. So let's go ahead and eat, but please keep in mind that thank yous are important for the folks that brought this facility. And there's Jordan right there. Jordan, before you leave, please come up here.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab Danielle and tell her to put out the tea and pudding for you guys, and then
Oh, tea and pudding. We need tea and pudding. Okay. All right. That's the most important piece.
So, say that was yours. WW,
Yeah.
that's the one. Just
That's
go
the-
there and
yep.
say I was there.
Mhm.
I was here.
Yeah. There's a button.
Okay. But that's the website, that's correct.
That's the website. Yeah.
That's all I needed.
So see, there's the button.
Gotcha.
Click the button.
I was here.
There's the form.
Gotcha. Good deal. Simple.
I found it. I'm just here.
Thank you,
Cool.
sir.
Yeah.
Well, while they're putting out tea and pudding, go ahead and continue the announcements. Miss Jordan might be joining us right now. Ready? Pudding and the tea. Oh, good. He's a good pudding and tea guy.
Figured he'd
Yeah.
be. What is this?
This is the fanciest microphone you've ever seen in your life. Yeah.
Looks like a duster.
So just so you know, this was made by a 3D printer by Mr.
3D printer.
Marcus over there that
Nice.
fits this thing. But yeah, just that's going to be your microphone because you're going to go into the recording. So this is Jordan.
Thanks.
She is the executive director
That's
of
right.
Jay's Place.
Yeah. Hey guys, my name is Jordan Hussey, and I am a person in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is that in March, I celebrated 7 years free of all mood and mind-altering substances. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. Recovery has given me a lot of fantastic things. One is the ability to be the executive director of Jay's Place Recovery Center. Here at Jay's Place, everyone that's staffed here is a woman in long-term recovery. We're all women right now. We host meetings here. We do events. I've actually probably extended invites to many of you to be a part of those events. We love, love, love collaboration. We love our partners. We try to give back what was freely given to us. And so we try to do everything completely free. So we get sponsors for a lot of those events. We invite people freely, cost free, try to be really effective with sharing the message and really teaching people that, recovery can be fun and we can enjoy life without substances. So we do host a wide variety of meetings. We do in-house one-on-one peer coaching, resume building, employment assistance. We are the connectors. We try to connect people, really. That's our goal, is to help them have a plethora of resources and options to get well. If people need treatment, we'll help them find treatment that works for them. We will help them pay deposits. We will help them get insurance. We will help them, find employment that is felon friendly or that meets the criteria of maybe an accountability program that they're in. So we go inside the county jail. We go on site to overdoses with the City of Gainesville Police Department. We collaborate with our local community partners, United Way, the homeless shelters, Good News at Noon, Salvation Army, the Domestic Violence Task Force. We sit at all of those tables, and our goal is to really just meet the needs of the people that we come in contact with. So I'm super grateful that you guys are here. If we can do anything for any of you guys, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, or if we can be a part of something or collaborate together, we're happy to do it. That is all I have.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we have a round of applause? Thank you. A couple other quick announcements, and then we'll jump into the pudding. Along with events, there's a lot of events coming up. Recovery Month is right around the corner. So many things going on. You can't be at all of them, right? But make sure that you're at every one of the events that GARR hosts. No, I'm just kidding. One of the things we do host is a golf tournament, September 11th. This is an event this is the 4th annual golf tournament. It has become one of the major golf tournaments in the recovery community. So it's not just recovery residences, but it's treatment centers and psychiatrists and detox centers. It's everybody. And it's really a way of us kind of bringing everybody together. It's one of those pieces that's helping GARR really stretch an arm out and have a significant space in the state that we're in. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes with GARR, with the state of Georgia, with all things. The more we can have representation at these events, with the gathering of lots of people to show that there's lots of support and there's lots of reach that is in the recovery residence community, helps us break that thing that some of us have to deal with almost on a daily basis. Others that are blessed enough to have a location maybe outside of the experiences that those of us that fight the battle of NIMBY. You guys familiar with that? Everybody know what that is? It's alive and well, let me tell you. So this is how we kind of fight against it. And we need your support. You can sponsor the event. You can participate in the event. Really what we want to have is as many warm bodies at the event as we possibly can, right? like we talked about in our board meeting. You don't even have to play golf. You can just drive around in a golf cart, right? Take pictures. He's got his clubs in the truck. We're gonna do a little practice session right after this. So that's coming up September 11th. Another thing that's coming up is August 18th. We have a networking event in Peachtree Corners, Holcomb Bridge Park. This is going to be an event unlike any other networking event. There might even be injuries, right? We're going to have sack races and water balloon fights and things like that. So trying to make it something outside of the box of what a normal networking event is. That information is all going to be and is on the website at thegarrnetwork.org. Okay, so just stay plugged into that. And then last but not least, well, two things. One is our next member event is going to be down in the city at a meditation and like yoga place called Kashi. So really cool place. Hopefully you can join us there. More information will be on the website for that. And our summit event is October 16th and 17th. That's going to be at the Covenant All Saints Church, which is where our last few summits have been, and also our summit meeting was at. So all that information will be on the website. It's all coming up here as we're wrapping up the year, coming fast and furious. And with that, I think we should gather up, make a line, eat some food, and then JP is going to present some best business practices for recovery residences. Sound good? Mm-hmm. Say, yeah, sounds good. All right, let's go eat. Of Zoom meeting. It's been happening for over a year. It's become very well attended. That's fantastic. I really kind of put it in play to bring us all together to have a conversation about everything we need to have a conversation about. What it's like to run a recovery residence, what some of the issues we're having, what some of the challenges. I don't know if you've ever tried to run a Zoom meeting. It is not easy. Have a lot of faces staring back at you on the screen. Nobody wants to talk. It wears me out. So, what we put into play during the last meeting, because inevitably, you know, the beauty of where you are, if you don't really understand it, I want to make sure we're all clear. You are now in a room filled up with leaders. We're all leaders. We're all leading people. Just think about all of the people that we represent, right? How many people do you have currently at your recovery residence? How many people of the family members of those people in your recovery residence? Right? It's vast. It just keeps expanding. You guys are all in leadership roles. So maybe we should do a little leadership training. This is a book that I presented last session, Trusted Leader. Great book. So we're going to dive into this book as kind of a book study, hopefully to generate some conversation around everybody joining me on that recovery residence workshop. So I want to invite you. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's definitely a conversation that will generate some good insight and help us all grow as leaders. So I want to throw that out. Every third Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock, it's 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Okay, so at 59 minutes and 59 seconds, I push the great to see you button, and off you go, and we're all sitting by ourselves, staring at a screen, alone again in Zoom land. How was dinner? Lunch? How was lunch? Good? Let's hear a very loud applause and hoop and holler so they can hear us from this room of quietness right now that I know we're not quiet people. So let's give a big thanks to Jay's Place. Make some noise. All right. Last but not least, probably you've heard of, if you haven't, you're getting ready to hear of, there is a bus tour going around our state in September. It's going to all kinds of different locations. It's going to be here. I will, you guys are signed up. I'm going to give your emails to Jordan, just so you know, because it's important that we come together for all things in recovery in September, but certainly this event. And the more we can gather and show the support of all things recovery during that bus tour and all things going on in the month of September, the better. Yes? Yes. Yes. Thank you. All right. Well, JP, who was just standing at the back of the room and now is no longer to be found, is next. Huh? Dude, you just blew it, man. I was all ready to just bring you up here with a big round of applause.
I still have 11 minutes. I had 11 minutes. All right. Take it away.
All right. With that, I give you JP.
All right, so don't make. Okay. So
And
we
you're gonna
just,
get to a place where you can ask questions.
yes.
Okay, so before you ask questions, as we get going, got it in your hand, okay?
All right, Marcus, can you hear me? Okay. All right. So best business practice for owner operators. All right. Nothing sexy about best business practices. This is going to suck and probably be slow motion. So I'm going to try to make it as least boring as possible. What we did was we get these questions all the time. What's the best practice about this? What do you guys as GARR recommend here? So what we have done over time is, in a lot of ways, we have our own standards. You guys all know that. A lot of you guys already, adhere to a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about because it's part of the GARR standards. But what we've done is we lean on SAMHSA for a lot of the questionable kind of stuff. And then we lean on the medical profession for a lot of this stuff as well. So we'll go through it. Todd, about 10:30 last night, shared with me a spreadsheet that had some questions that you guys had specifically asked, some people. So we'll go through those questions at the end. And then if you guys have other questions, between myself, Todd, Wayne, who is hopefully still here, Marcus, Andrea, Steve, we can answer these questions for you, right? Plus Brandy's here. She knows everything. So I'm happy about that. All right. So we're going to start off basically, we'll discuss best business practices for recovery residents, owner operators, and how this stuff applies to our programs. We're going to go over 3 basic kind of topics, discussions, best business practices in general for owner operator, recovery residents, owner operators, fundamental leadership qualities, right? That's just some very basic, very general stuff. And then general business topics that if you are an owner operator, or all of us should have some basic understanding of this stuff. Again, we pulled this stuff very loosely from SAMHSA and other, national organizations. Like a lot of AA meetings, I take what I want and leave the rest behind. So we'll just kind of go through this. And if you guys have questions, we'll take it as we get there. So topic 1, best business practice for recovery residences. This stuff is relatively important. Some of this stuff might seem pretty common sense. I know a lot of it does seem that way to me, but at the same time, we get these questions all the time. So we're trying to give you guys the information that's been relayed to us from higher organizations. All right. So the first thing they recommend, have a clear operational definition, okay? Owner-operators should have a clear operational definition that accurately delineates the type of services offered and to what degree or intensity these services are offered. That part of it's the only part that I feel like is really important. To what degree or intensity do we offer these services? So who are you, right? What is your program? Like, so I'm with We Believe, okay? I'm also with Atlas Behavioral Health. So I'm fortunate to have a clinical staff that I can lean on, as well as, GARR and other organizations to get this kind of information from. So who is We Believe, right? What exactly is our program, right? We're a very basic 12-step based sober living program for men 18 and above, and that is it, right? And it's very important. We'll get to this in a minute, right? Who are you and what do you do? Exactly what services do you offer, right? So we get, and this hasn't happened so much lately, Todd, under previous leadership, a lot of times the directions to us as owner operators or directors or whatever your position or title is, we were told, write your policies and procedures, right? And all of us, and I'm sure you get these phone calls because I get them every day. Hey, I'm at Bartow County Jail and I got to go to rehab and they gave me your number. Well, unfortunately, I'm not a rehab, right? I'm not a treatment center. I don't offer therapy. I'm not a clinical person. I don't have a clinical staff at my sober living. So the verbiage that we use is very important, right? We get policy procedures that say in anything, in any level of treatment. Some of you guys may have clinicians on staff, right? But I can't personally say that I'm a treatment center. I'm not a drug rehab. You know what I mean? I am a 12-step based housing program for men. And that is it, right? So it's very important that we know who exactly we are and what we do and on what level we do it at, or what services we offer and what level we offer those services. Who exactly do we offer these services to, right? That's important. I get, and we'll talk about this more as we go through this, I get phone calls from guys, we're not Thor, right? I am not on the Thor list, not knocking the Thor programs because there are a lot of fantastic Thor programs, but we are not on the Thor list by design. Right? I choose not to be on the Thor list because I continue to get calls early on. Thor is transitional housing for offender reentry, right? So we would get phone calls. I am a 12-step based, program for men with substance use disorder primary. So I get these phone calls from people that say, oh, well, I don't have a drug problem. I'm just being released from jail and I need a place to lay my head. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not the program for you, but fortunately I'm a part of an organization called GARR, and I can send you 30 programs that are more adept to what you're looking for. So those kind of things are important as well. Who is my target market, right? I have to understand I can't help everybody, and that's a problem for me, right? I want to save the world, right? And I got sober and some dudes did some things for me that I try to now do for other guys, and it's hard for me to turn guys away. But sometimes, and more often than I would like for it to be the case, I have to turn away people that I just know in my heart I'm not a good fit for this particular person, right? Don't take on residents you're not qualified to work with, right? That's a hard one for us, right? Especially, if I'm a 24-bed program, right? If I'm sitting on 9 open beds, right, my subconscious is doing the math, and I get a call from a guy who I know full well, man, this guy really just doesn't seem like I'm the guy to help this guy. You know what I mean? He'd do better with Steve over in Palm House just because of his current situation. But my greedy brain's like, no, man, you need to fill these beds, right? So it's very difficult for us sometimes to turn away residents that are potential residents that, for financial gain. And we're going to talk a lot about the financial gain piece because it is hard. We are all running businesses, right? We've got to keep the lights on. And y'all know as well as I do, the rest of the world out there thinks it's raining dollar bills in this industry, right? It's not reality for us. So you got to kind of, don't jeopardize your integrity and what you do well for financial gain, because in the end, in my experience, it will come back to bite me in the butt and I'll end up losing more money and more headache and more time and more staff and blah, blah, blah because of a situation that I shouldn't have taken on in the first place. Number 2, and again, this is all from the SAMHSA guidelines, again, very loosely. Recognize that a substance use disorder is a chronic condition requiring a range of recovery supports. This one I don't really like either, okay? We work with a lot of programs, and our job, more so Todd, thank God, right? Some of us that do other certifications, and it's not easy being a board member for an organization that certifies other programs that do exactly what you do, because it's just not, right? So it's not always easy to tell people, hey, I hear what you're doing and we understand why you think that that's the only way and that's the best way. But if you want to be a GARR board member, you're going to have to change that policy, right? So for me, it's difficult, right? My way may not always be the best way, right? Now, I don't really believe that because I know my way is the best way, and all y'all's way is not as good as my way. Just because that's when we all operate with that, mindset. But that's okay, right? GARR, that's a big part of what GARR is, and GARR was built around the autonomy to operate as an owner operator how you see fit, right? Now, granted, because the way the world's spinning, the way life changes, we do have some basic guidelines that we all have to operate under. So I've got to be willing to tweak my policies and procedures for the greater good. So my way may not always be the best way, and my way is certainly not always the only way. I'm a 12-step guy, right? I'm a big book guy and I'm a God guy, right? And when I hear people say such and such is wrong, JP's wrong, this is not the right way, this is the way to do it, what happens? I get pissed off, right? Because I'm like, no, man, like the numbers don't lie, statistics don't lie. Then they've got their own statistics they shove back at me, and it's difficult, you know what I mean? And it's very difficult for us because we have to come in to your program sometime and say, hey, look, man, we understand why you want to have this policy and we understand why you guys are doing this the way you're doing it, but unfortunately, that's not within our guidelines. So if you want to be a GARR member, this is what has to happen. So we all have to kind of bend and flex our, specific mindsets to some degree, if that makes sense. All right. So number 3, recognize that co-occurring mental health disorders or mental disorders often accompany substance use disorders, right? I think at this point, I can't imagine that hardly any of us have not come across at least 1 or 2 clients or residents in our time that do not experience co-occurring disorders, right? This 2018 survey said that 9.2 million adults live with a co-occurring mental and substance use disorder combined, right? I would venture to say that number is probably double, right? I might have one guy in my program that's been through in the past 2 years who is nothing more than just an absolute textbook alcoholic. Every other man that comes through my doors, myself included, has some kind of co-occurring disorder, right? Now, with a lot of programs, this isn't an issue, right? But with some programs, it becomes an issue, right? Medication, right? Medication is important. And one of the questions we had was about medication. So I'll touch on that, right? Medication is extremely important, right? You cannot, I don't want to say you cannot, right? SAMHSA and GARR does not believe that you can bring a person in. Now, I'm going to try to stay on track with this, okay? There's 2 trains of thought here, right? When someone comes through my doors, right? They come to We Believe, JP, you're my guy. I've heard all the good stuff about you. I'm coming to We Believe and We Believe only. Okay, great, Mr. So-and-so. Here are my policies and procedures, and we go through and do an intake, and I give them all of my rules, and I'm very, very clear about exactly, and we'll talk about this in a minute too, what my expectations are, and they can either agree to that or they cannot agree. And if they don't agree, hey, that's cool, man, right? We'll part ways and stay buddies, but if you don't agree, then you can't come in here, right? Now that's great until the point where someone's mandated to me, right? If someone's told by the judge, you can only go to We Believe, right? And I bring that person in. So now there's another higher authority saying you have to go to We Believe and you have to stay there for 12 months. And I come in and say, okay, yeah, by the way, I know you've got some major anxiety, some major depression, and some other co-occurring disorders, but unfortunately, we're not going to let you take your meds here. So we're going to eliminate your meds from the equation, and that's how it's going to have to be. That's kind of jacked up, right? So I personally believe I have changed my opinion on a lot of this stuff as far as meds go in general, right? MAT specifically, but medication is important, right? Doctors and psychiatrists are important. I am not a doctor. I'm not a clinician. Question?
How do you get in a situation where a judge mandates a person to your specific program? I mean, I could see him saying you need to go to a program. How can he make you take a client that you don't know anything about?
He can't make me take the client. He can make the client come to me.
Okay,
If I-
if he's not a fit, can't he find something that's equivalent?
I would assume so. I have never, that's a good question. And personally, I have not had a situation. Generally, the judges that we know and that work with us specifically, they work with Four Winds. They work with other GARR programs. They work with Palm House. So they know, hey, this guy, based on, these judges have been dealing with these guys in drug court for years, a lot of times, right? So they know these guys. You know what, man, this is a JP guy. I'm about to shoot this guy over to JP, or I'm about to shoot this guy over to Steve and Brandy. I'm about to shoot this guy here, whatever, right? Those kind of situations, I have never turned down a client that a judge mandated to me because it was always a good fit. Now, in that scenario, if I said, you know what, Your Honor, this is not a good fit for my program, I appreciate your confidence in us, but we're not going to be able to take him, then it's back on them, right? Am I making sense? Yeah. Okay. Back to this, right? Doctors and psychiatrists, a lot of programs and a lot of owner-operators don't believe in medication. They don't believe in, they believe that, you do these certain things and all of a sudden your life is going to be perfect forever. And maybe that happens for some people, right? But I can tell you for the vast majority of the people I've come across, that doesn't work, right? So unless you are a doctor, listen to the doctors, right? I'm not a doctor. Guess what I do when I have a question I need a doctor on? Call Dr. Brooks. Dr. Brooks, yo, man, this is going on. What do we do? Dr. Brooks gives me medical advice, right? And I don't take away medication. I don't sway medications one way or the other. Now, again, as a GARR owner-operator, I have the autonomy to say we don't allow benzos, right, as a standard practice. We don't allow opiates for pain medication, those kind of things. But again, even in those, there's always, I won't say always, I always try to leave room for an exception, right? If I have a guy who, just got into a car crash and broke his back in 7 places and the doctor says, hey, he's going to be on Percocet for 3 weeks, we are going to manage that medication with him, but we're going to allow it, right? Even though that's against my policies and procedures. That's another one of the questions that came up, and we'll go over that at the end. So co-occurring disorders, it is everywhere, right? Again, I find it difficult to believe that I would say 90%, that's just me throwing a number out there. Let's say 70%, just to be safe. 70%, I would venture to say, of people that struggle with alcohol and substance use disorder have a co-occurring condition, all right? Co-occurring condition. Assess the applicant, the potential resident, assess their needs and the appropriateness of this residence and your residence to meet these needs, right? Stay in your lane, right? And again, this is one of those, goes back to don't take people that you aren't qualified to work with. Again, I'm a small, and I hate to keep using Brandy, right? But she's a gangster and she taught me a lot of this stuff, right? Brandy has a very awesome, very big equipped staff. I don't. I have me and 3 other guys. You know what I mean? So, and 2 of those guys are part-time. I have 1 full-time employee other than myself and 2 part-time guys. So we are not equipped to take on someone that has an extremely high acuity level of some disorder. So I have to, but I do the math. Mom's like, no. We read a lot about you guys, and Dr. Brooks recommends you guys, and we really want to come here, and we'll pay the whole 6 months up front. And it's like, that's a hard one to turn away, right? But those are the tough decisions that we as owner operators are forced to make, right? So it goes back to integrity, try to do the right thing, that kind of thing, right? Stay in your lane. Is this person a good fit for your program? Or equally importantly, or more importantly, is this person obviously not a good fit, right? Clearly, I have no business taking this guy, but damn, I need to fill that bed. You know what I mean? You got to weigh the pros and cons and try to do what you need to do. All right. This one, all of you guys should have written policies, procedures, and resident expectations. The resident expectations is a big one, right? We all have policies and procedures. Before you can even begin GARR certification, you got to send them to Todd, right? Todd goes through and does your certificate or reads your policies and procedures, make sure everything's in order. Then one of us, usually Todd or Candace or myself or Andrea, or a group of us will come out and tour your program, make sure the dwelling is straight. That's always a given. But have a policies and procedures on everything, right? Be clear on your policies and expectations of the residents, and then make sure, this is another thing that happens, and it's even happened with our program more times than I would like to admit. Now, fortunately, we have our residents sign every page of their intake document, right? Sometimes, man, you got 100 different things going on, and Joe over in 918's drunk and he came home loaded. Now you got to deal with that, and you're in the middle of an intake. So you blow through it all real quick, and 3 months goes by and the guy that you were doing the intake with, gets in trouble for this or that, or asks for this privilege or that privilege, and you tell him no, and that's the rule. Well, we didn't really make that clear to him. Now, fortunately, and this is kind of terrible, but it's what I do to cover my own butt, I have them sign the document. All right. And I tell them, look, is that your signature? Right there it says you can't do what you just did. So be extremely clear with your residents about your expectations on the front end. Take some time with the intakes. I love doing intakes because that's the time where I have an hour or an hour and a half, however long it takes, to sit down and get to know this guy, right? Because it's always the same thing. Another question? Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times when somebody's coming into a program, they just want to get in.
Right.
So, they're going to initial whatever, and they're not going to read it or whatever. And so a lot of times you might have to go over this stuff monthly, depending upon how often you get new clients or how long people stay. You might have to, like have community meeting where we're going to go over the guidelines, policies, and procedures in the event that you forgot about it or you don't know.
We do that all the time. You're exactly right. You know what I mean? I tell the guys, I go through it pretty thoroughly. I do our intakes pretty thoroughly. But like you said, man, these guys are a lot of times just home from jail for the first day. They just got out of detox or a 35-day residential. Their mind's spinning on getting to the grocery store and getting a new vape and signing up at the gym and all that shit, right? They don't care about your smoking policy and your policy on this or that. So I feel you on that, right? But again, that's where the signatures come into play. That's where documentation always covers us, right? Always. But we do that all the time. I can't, human nature is always the same, right? We set the bar way up here. We believe, and I keep using my program because it's the only one I know that well. We set the bar way up high. What happens over time? The bar kind of comes down. So you have to have those community meetings. Tonight, we're going to talk about the rules of the program, gentlemen, and here's why, because this has been happening and this has been happening. You have to reset that bar. So that's always going to be the case, right? SAMHSA just recommends that you be extremely clear about that stuff on the front end. And under no circumstances, obviously, should we kind of, I have guys that come in, right, and everybody's got a girlfriend. Where'd you meet? Such and such treatment center. She's my soulmate, My first question is always, when they have a girlfriend, right, one of our policies and procedures is no relationships for the first 6 months, okay? And that's a minimum, right? We really, all know that that's not a long enough time. But anyway, right? So if they say, well, I've got a girlfriend, or what if I've already got a girlfriend? Are you engaged to her? No. Do you have children with her? No. Then the answer is no, because I already know at that point, y'all met in Blue Ridge. You know what I mean? And she's your future ex-wife, and it's on, So those kind of things, it's tricky, but you gotta, we have to bend and flex, but this is just going off what SAMHSA suggests, right? So as long as we're clear on the front end, it ends up causing us less problem on the back end, right? Ensure resident safety. Okay, this is something we all probably do, but this is something they wanted us to kind of mention. I felt like it was important, so I threw it in here. Conduct safety trainings. We all have programs all across the board. Some of us are faith-based, some of us are 12 steps, some of us have outpatient programs, some of us are in the country out on 5,000 acres, some of us are downtown Atlanta. So the scenario for catastrophe or some kind of incident, the scenarios are basically infinite. There's no, you never know, right? And that's part of what makes a catastrophe because you aren't necessarily prepared for it, right? So conduct safety trainings. We do this on a quarterly basis, but then every time I think about it, Narcan training. Okay, if you're a GARR member, you have to have Narcan on site. Not only do you have to have it on site, the residents need to know where it is and it needs to be visible and accessible. That's a fight we've had with programs. I get it, right? Some people, their personal or religious leanings say no, that Narcan is a drug and we don't want drugs here, and maybe they don't understand the full scope of it, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, it is a GARR regulation and one I firmly believe in, okay? But Narcan, Narcan sitting up in the little box on the wall is useless if the residents don't know how to use it. You know what I mean? Or your staff, right? So we do trainings quarterly on different, just random stuff. Conduct training. Narcan training, ensure escape routes and fire safety routes, those kind of things. That's important. We have an apartment type setup, right? There's 2 doors. One goes out on the porch and one goes out the front door. Seems really stupid for me to get my guys in there. First of all, have fire escape plans, right? We have those because we're supposed to have them. All right. But to get my guys in the living room and say, hey, y'all, If the fire breaks out, go out the door. Well, we do it. You know what I mean? We do it because we're supposed to do it, right? And you just, you never know, right? So we do those kind of trainings, and there's tons like, we'll continue to do like, some of you guys saw Wayne Baskin, who did the first aid specific or recovery resident specific first aid. I am extremely fortunate. Wayne is on my staff. So Wayne does all of our training. So it makes it easier for me. But, if you don't have a Wayne, I would say maybe try to get a Wayne, come up with your own trainings, or maybe reach out to Wayne. He might be willing to do some side work, that kind of thing. Or someone like that, right? Not pitching Wayne, just throwing that out there, right? He might get pissed if he knew I said that. All right, anyway.
EMT or something.
Advanced EMT for Grady, yeah. The stuff that he talks about is, yeah, it's not cool. He sees stuff that we don't want to see. Number 7, and this one's big, right? This one, especially in today's world, learn and practice cultural competence, okay? This is a big one because we all, again, right, we come from different areas of the state, and in the state of Georgia, right, not the biggest state in the world, right, not that big of an area, but think about the differences in culture and the norms in some areas of this state versus other areas of this state, right? We've got extremely rural areas and we've got extremely populated metropolitan areas and everything in between. So cultural competence and just in general, culture is extremely important to be aware of. The concept of culture, that's a lot of C's. The concept of cultural competency is of extreme importance as the disease of addiction does not discriminate along racial, cultural, or socioeconomic lines. The staff and peers who operate and work in recovery housing should treat all individuals with respect regardless of their personal backgrounds and beliefs. Back to training. Conduct trainings on this kind of stuff. Until I saw this, we are a very open-minded program. I'm a very open-minded person, and I've had staff members and residents across the board from everything that's coming through your mind right now, we've had them, right? Because I believe that I just want to help people, right? So we do not discriminate in any way, but I also can say that I've never conducted a training with my staff on cultural competency. Never crossed my mind until I read this. You know what I mean? So keep those kind of things in mind, especially, like I said, if you're in some of the more rural areas or you have your own very rigid personal beliefs. Sometimes, for the benefit of the world and the greater good, and try to help as many people as we can help, which is our job in life, if you're in this room, right, is to open your mind a little bit and realize, again, back to the same thing, your way may not be the only way. Todd.
I just want to mention about this, wherever you might be in your mind, as he's kind of presenting this, we all have cultural situations, not even be race, but it's the person who's 59 and the kid who's 18. That's a cultural difference. So it's very important to be aware of who people are and being able to kind of step in and help guide them in the process.
Yeah, to touch on that, I think that race is the least of the issues. We all, especially in the recovery community, right, we all love and get along, right? That's not the bigger. There's so many other, minorities that have grown up over the past, few years outside of race definitions. We've got to be aware of that kind of thing and be accepting. And again, right, no matter what I personally believe about any individual person, it is my job to help that person to the best of my ability. All right. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So having to even write a policy on this, number one, it makes my head hurt. But I'm just going to go ahead and tell you it makes my head hurt because I'm struggling with how does this differ from my standard I will not discriminate against you policy.
It really doesn't.
Okay, so why am I splitting hairs? Explain to me why I'm splitting hairs. Because whether they're 59, 65, I've had a client as old as 65. I've had a client as young as 21. I'm still going to honor them and not discriminate against them. And if one is a Seventh-day Adventist, I will show them the opportunities that they have and let them do their religion as they choose, because I'm a 12-step based program, but I definitely encourage them to go to the church of their choice. We do offer Celebrate Recovery, and it is an option whether or not they do that. It's not something that's required. But how is this? I mean, as I was writing this, I'm like, how is this like spelling out really any different than my non-discrimination policy?
It's
Because it's split, to me, it's splitting hairs and it's redundant.
so I agree.
I'm just being kind of pain in the butt.
No. Okay, so let me be very, very clear first of all, right? First of all, this presentation will be made public to all of you. So if you're taking notes, that's great, but don't feel like you have to write every bit of this down. We're not doing a test at the end. All right, so I wish I'd have said that in the beginning. Furthermore, these are not GARR guidelines. These are not guidelines that we are implementing. This is a presentation on best business practices. Now, some of these may be items that we implement or are already implemented, right? But to answer your question, your non-discrimination policy is this.
Okay,
So
I mean, I have 2 different policies now based off the checklist that I'm going by.
Correct.
That came from GAR saying make sure you have all of these.
correct. Yeah, I'm not saying. Maybe I should have said that. Let me make this abundantly clear. I am not an authority on shit. Right? I am here to give you guys what SAMHSA says is best business practices, right? Loosely, after I twisted it up a little bit to make it sound better. All right, Todd, please.
This is about making sure that you and your staff have some type of training to be aware of, so that you're providing best practices. This isn't about just writing a policy and procedure. This is about being aware, like you said, 7-day events. Okay, well, maybe you need to dig in and figure out what 7-day events really is, what that person believes in, so you have an awareness of whoever it is in your program, so that you can speak to them and make sure that you're not, crossing some lines, and that you're treating them with respect.
And I personally think that this today, I see more issues with this. And again, this is my opinion, with closed-mindedness as it pertains to the LGBTQ community, right? That's where a lot more of this very rigid, no, that's a sin, you're going to hell kind of stuff comes in. And if that's what you believe, hey man, that's cool, right? But if you're going to serve that population, your staff needs to be trained, or at least have a discussion with, this is the move on this type situation. Does that make sense? Again, this is not stuff that we are going to hold you guys to, unless it's already a GAR policy, which I did not cross-reference which or which, right? So just keep that in mind. These are suggested best business practices from SAMHSA. And then some of these other stuff we'll get to. This is just basic stuff, all right? So I should have clarified that in the beginning. So back to that, right? We do suggest, and SAMHSA suggests, that you do cultural competency training, or to go back to your point, have that conversation with your staff that, hey, we don't discriminate here, no matter what your personal beliefs are. Because sometimes if you don't have that conversation from time to time, it will kind of accidentally happen. I work in a guy's program, right? I've got kids, like you said, from 18, 19 years old to my oldest guy's 72 years old with a master's degree, and all across the board. But they're guys, they clown, they joke, and sometimes they say things that they don't mean anything by it. They're just kidding around amongst themselves. But as the owner operator and the leader of that program, right, it's my job to step in and bring to their attention, hey man, I hear y'all, right? I know y'all just clowning, but here's something to think about when it comes to this topic. So that kind of stuff. Let's move past this one. All right. Maintain ongoing communication with interested parties and care specialists. This one's big if you have this type of, it depends. A lot of us, we house guys for a lot of different outpatient programs. It just depends on your scenario, so this may or may not apply to you. But maintain, the more people that we can surround an individual with to pull him through this process, statistically, the more likely their chances of success are, within reason and with boundaries. And we all know about helicopter moms and all that kind of stuff. But, maintain those communications and relationships with the family, their treatment team if they have one, their doctors and psychiatrists. Have a release of information for every one of those people. That is a suggestion as well. Again, We Believe, I am not a clinical facility. HIPAA does not apply to me, right? I can tell everybody in the world that you're in my program, and I'm not outside the law. Now, do I do that? No. We honor the HIPAA, confidentiality, and we honor this kind of stuff. So we just act as if. but I have a release for every mom, for every doctor, for every blah, 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 because it's a best practice. It's not required by law, right? But I do it anyway, right? And the more I can try to operate above and beyond, the better off my residents are going to be in the end. And that's what this whole thing is about. All I'm in this thing for is to try to help as many people as I can get better, right? And try to make some money, right? Where were we? Okay, have a release and have a discharge plan. This is another one, man. I get, this one pisses me off, not gonna lie. I get phone calls weekly. I won't say every day, but weekly from people that are misled about the program they were going to, right? Now, gonna touch on this because it needs to be touched on, right? Outpatient IOPs with housing, all right? Guess what? I own an IOP with housing. Right? I own an outpatient program that is an independent program from We Believe, right? I do it a little differently. My guys, if they go to treatment at Atlas, they are not required to live at We Believe, nor are you required to go to Atlas if you live at We Believe, right? What was my point in that? Oh, discharge planning. Okay, but so a lot of times we get these calls from guys they left his treatment center, right, a residential detox, right, detox res program, thinking they were going to a 6 to 12 month sober living program or recovery residence, which we are, right? And they get there and without knowing it, they were sent to an IOP with housing, right, as a referral equity kind of bounce around kind of thing, which happens, and I understand it's part of the game and blah, blah, blah. But 4 weeks into their, what they think is 6 months stay there, they're told, hey, unfortunately, your insurance benefits ran out, so you've got to be out of here by noon, right? It drives me crazy, right? And I understand, again, both sides of it, right? The bills have to be paid, but man, and then as it pertains to us in general, right? Have a discharge plan, like as thorough a discharge plan as possible. Have those doctor appointments set up, or at least help your resident, right? Because we don't do a lot of that for them, right? Because again, we are basically the lowest level of care you can possibly be at We Believe, right? So we don't set all that up. I don't have a staff member or a team, a discharge team that can sit down and go through all this stuff with them item by item, but we give them the resources. We say, hey, build a plan, build a treatment discharge plan, or not a treatment discharge plan, I should not have said that word, discharge plan, so that your residents have some higher level or higher chance of success when they leave there. That's that's one I feel strongly about, because I get those phone calls. Yo, man, I thought I was going to a 12-month program, been here 6 weeks. They're telling me I got to leave. Did you get high? No. Did you break any rules? No. What's going on? They said my insurance ran out. You know what I mean? And we all are going to get those calls. And the more and more time goes by, the more we'll get those calls. But have those discharge plans in place. That's a big one. Is 9 on here? No. Evaluate program effectiveness and resident success. You've been around Todd for more than 15 minutes. Todd preaches outcomes, 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 outcomes. Track your data. This is a general business, principle in itself, right? Track outcomes, okay? Are you making an impact, okay? I can tell you, if you have a program with more than 5 guys, you're making an impact. Are you making a positive impact? Or are you making a negative impact? But you're making an impact, right? You're setting an example. You're sending a message either way, this way or that way. So track your outcomes. You know what I mean? Todd, and a lot of you guys are aware of this. There's a lot of funding supposedly coming down the pipe for recovery housing. Some of you guys are aware of a Senate bill, 131, that's coming down the pipe, where they're trying to make it what is it?
331.
331. Sorry, I had it backwards. 331. There's legislation in play to make it a law that you have to be GARR certified to operate a recovery residence, okay? In order to show the powers that be who are distributing that money, why they should give it to us or whoever, right? We have to show them real, actual data. And if you're not tracking that data, then we got nothing to give them. So I am a big believer in outcomes. Track your outcomes, and where can you improve in that, right? And tracking outcomes is helpful across the board in business. And we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the basic business fundamentals, I think. But so that's kind of it, right? The last thing they wrapped up with, learn from your mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. We're all people. A lot of us are people in recovery who make more mistakes than others, but whatever, right? My way may not always be the best way. That is a hard one for me to remember, okay? My way may not always be the only way, okay? Y'all, again, I struggle with that. I struggle with it. You know what I mean? I just know what worked for me. Know and understand what you don't know. This is something someone taught me early on. And it was might even have been a sponsor, but it was like, the most important thing that you can know is what you don't know. So if I am dead set in my ways and I'm so closed-minded in a given direction, it's very easy for me to lose track and lose sight of what's actually right and what's actually important, because I'm so stubborn and think that, again, my way is the only way. I can't possibly be wrong. No one could possibly know better than me, that kind of thing. So learn from your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, learn from your mistakes. All right. Any questions on that before we move on? All right. I don't know how are we on time? I got like 15 more minutes, something like that. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to go through these next ones are, fundamental leadership qualities and general business principles, right? These principles, these are very, very, very basic, right? And we can apply them in all aspects of our lives, but we'll go through them and just kind of talk about it as we go through them, all right? Leadership, definition they give us of leadership, the ability to inspire a team to achieve a certain goal or multiple goals. Right? So what does leadership mean to you, right? If you're in this room, you are a leader of some sort. You are representing a company, or you're the owner and operator of a company, right? We are all leaders to some degree, okay? Your team and your community feed off of and replicate your energy as the leader of that community. Lead by example. This is one that they post, right? Live and lead by the golden rule, all right? I can think of a scenario, right? My guys, regardless of what I know to be true, okay? When these guys come through my door, they just see the JP standing in front of y'all. They don't know the JP that was where most of us have been, right? And so they just assume, oh, this guy doesn't get it. He's blah, blah, blah. So, right? So, but they look to me, right? They look to me to lead them, right? They are literally paying me to lead them, right? So I pay attention to that. I pay attention to the fact that my residents and my staff are paying attention to me and the way I live, right? And it's not even difficult. It's virtually impossible for me to tell them, you need to do this, this, and this, while I'm over here not doing that, that, and that, and rather actually doing this, this, and this, right? So I try very diligently to lead by example, but also the whole part about as a leader of your community, okay? The example that comes to mind is when COVID hit, okay? I'm a God guy, right? I refuse to live my life in fear. When COVID hit, I'm like, fuck it, COVID hit. You know what I mean? We're going to do what they ask us to do. We're going to abide by the guidelines that people are giving us. But I'm not going to freak out and shut everything down and just go crazy because COVID hit, right? When COVID hit, my residents, we had a community meeting and everybody had those questions. And what did I do? I stood there calmly and collectively and I told them, hey, look, it's going to be okay, right? And I told them exactly what we were going to do and everything was okay. And that's what I reassured them. No matter what, you're all going to be okay. No one's getting kicked out. We're not all going to die. Everything's going to be fine. All right. Adversely, I have a guy that I knew who had just started a program and they'd been around for 6-8 months at the time, didn't agree with a lot of what they were doing. And this guy calls me and he's freaking out. I mean, I can hear it in his voice. Oh my God, dude, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, man, my residents are asking me what's going on. I'm freaking out, man. And now they're freaking out and I didn't know what to tell them. And we don't have toilet paper over here, blah, blah. And and within weeks, his program fell apart. Everybody, they saw the leader was jumping ship. And they're like, screw it. If he's gone, we're gone. You know what I mean? So leadership is extremely important, and it's extremely important to realize whether you like it or not, you are in a position of leadership and your staff and residents and everyone in your community are going to look to you and watch how you act, right? People will critique and judge you either way. So just keep that in mind. Yes.
So you said initially that, the guys come in and they look at you kind of like, you look like you woke up like that or whatever. So I'm saying like, so do you share your testimony with them?
Absolutely.
Let them know where you came from?
Absolutely. I have,
Give hope and, hey, if this guy can come from where he says he came from to that, as a chance for me.
Absolutely. Right. Without question, right? Neil Campbell gets really mad at me when I say this, right? So I'm an alcoholic. Right. And I don't have a problem with anybody knowing that. So when I give a presentation and I'm asked to say, my name is Jason Price and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means for me is I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. Right. And I don't have a problem saying that. So, of course, I share my testimony with my guys. I don't have a problem telling anybody anything about my past if it will serve a good purpose. And I don't run around bragging about all the times I've been in the chain gang and all that stuff. But yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? But again, that's leadership. That goes into what we're talking about next, humility, right? So let's jump on to the next one. Humility. I like this definition. A lot of definitions of humility. So you 12-steppers might recognize this definition. Clear recognition of who and what I really am, followed by a sincere desire to become what I can be. That's my favorite definition, right? A clear recognition of exactly who and what I am. What are my limitations? What am I good at? What do I suck at, right? Those are things I need to know and need to pay attention to so that I can be a better leader, right? Understand that you don't know everything, right? Again, know your role and stay in your lane. That one keeps coming up, right? Again, I have to understand that I don't know everything. I have to understand when I need to lead on Dr. Brooks, when I need to lean on my partners, that kind of thing, right? Know my role and stay in my lane. Do what I do and do it well. Understand that I do not know everything. Ask for help from experts and other professionals. Again, this goes back to where, you know, if I have a question and I don't know the answer, I can call Steve and get the answer to that question because I know he might have been through it. Or call Andrew with this question because she might deal with females that are like this, those kind of things. I don't have a problem with that because I know, I mean, on the big scheme of things, I suck at life. You know what I mean, right? I just have a program now and hang out with people like you, so I'm a little better than I used to be, but I don't have a problem reaching out to other people. Todd, God, dude, I've called Todd, I can't tell you how many times, right? And so that's what GARR is all about, having this network of people we can reach out to. Understand you don't know everything. Build a qualified team. Surround yourself with the people you trust and respect. That's a big one. Build a qualified team, right? Again, I don't know about certain, subjects, right? So what do? I surround myself with people that I'm either paying to advise me on this or mentors, those kind of things, right? Build a qualified team. That's huge. We all, to some degree, struggle with this because a lot of people that come through our programs end up working for our programs. That's our setup, right? Matter of fact, every one of my staff members, all three of them came through my program at some point in time and have managed to stay sober. So as part of our trainings, I will pay for them to get certain certifications or send them to certain trainings. Or some of you guys might be here as a result of your owner-operator having you come to a training like this. So those kind of things are important. I'm trying to keep it moving because I know we're running out of time. What time we got to wrap up by?
5 more minutes.
All right, good. All right, cool. All right, integrity. This is easy. The practice of being honest and showing a consistent, yes. Where are we at? Oh, we skipped integrity. All right, integrity. The practice of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles and values. Try to the best of your ability to do the right thing in all situations. This was a question that came up on the question list. Don't let money cloud your judgment. It's hard to do. Okay? Do what you believe is right because people are going to judge you either way. All right? I have found that to be true. And I do the best I can. Be consistent in your actions. That's another big one, right? I try to be the same JP every day so that my guys and my staff can see that I'm not, all over the place and they don't know what to think when I walk in the room. Most of my guys understand this is what JP expects. This is what JP doesn't really care about, blah, blah, blah. So try to be consistent. Cooperation. This is a big one for us, right? The process of groups working or acting together for common, mutual, or some underlying benefit, right? What is GARR, right? GARR is a group of groups working or acting together for a common goal, right? As opposed to working in competition for selfish benefit. That's another big one, man. Like back in about 5 or 6, maybe 7, 8 years ago in the kind of Sandy Springs, Roswell, North Atlanta area, there were programs popping up all over the place, right? Some of them were really good folks wanting to do some really good work, and some of them were had their hearts in the right place, but everybody was worried about competition. There's just too much competition, right? So everybody was being real stingy and nobody's helping anybody, and a lot of those programs blew up and then imploded just as quickly, right? So we are very focused on working together, right? That is what GARR is all about. We are a group of owner-operators trying to help each other navigate this thing called addiction, right? And it's constantly changing, it's constantly growing. And Brett Bagley says this all the time. Unfortunately, there are plenty of addicts and alcoholics and people with mental health issues to go around, right? So there's no shortage of a population for us to serve. So cooperate with people in your community in general, right? Effective communication skills, abilities used when giving and receiving different kinds of information, pretty self-explanatory. They involve listening, speaking, observing, and empathizing, right? My idea of communication, or really listening, is I'm waiting on you to shut up so I can talk again. That's just, I talk too much. You know what I mean? Like literally on my office wall, I have a thing that says talk less, listen more. I'm terrible at it, right? So those kind of things are things that I constantly need to be working on, right? And observing, that's another big one, right? Learn how to kind of, read the room and understand what's going on before I jump in there and try to like handle everything. That's not one I'm good at either. All right, the next one, emotional intelligence. I threw this one in here because they had it on their site. I got it from one of these sites. Also known as emotional quotient, or EQ. The ability to understand and manage your emotions and the emotions of other people. Again, recognize when you're starting to get elevated. Recognize when it's time to, and I think this one, no, okay. This one's really effective in like crisis de-escalation, a lot of that kind of thing. You know what I mean? People, and it goes back to kind of the leadership thing. People, and I think we'll talk about it real quickly in one of these other things, right? But people are going to match your energy, right? So understand when you start feeling a certain type of way that whether you may not know it, whether you know it or not, you might start acting a little differently, a little more aggressive, a little louder, right? Those kind of things. Be aware of that. Be able to read that in other people, because we all walk into crazy situations all the time, okay? But it also can be used, right? If we're talking and I come in and you're super worked up about something and you're being really loud, I can kind of match that volume, but calmly, and hey man, we're on the same page. And then I can begin to bring my voice down, and naturally or magically somehow his voice becomes down. I'm starting to stutter. Comes down, right? So it's a lot of different tactics there, okay? All right, we're going to keep moving because we're about done. My phone won't quit ringing. All right, that's all for the business principles. These are the basic general business topics to understand, right? This is some of the SAMHSA stuff, but these are basic business principles that all of us should have some understanding of. Basic economics, finance, and accounting. Understand the current general economic state. Spend your money wisely, expect the unexpected, and plan for the future. This seems like a no-brainer, right? But I see it happen, man, when guys people open up these new programs, they fill up 24 beds real quickly, and, they got, whatever the number is coming in a month, and they think that it's going to be like that forever. So they rush out and buy a new car, and they go do this and this, and then reality happens, right? And we're all got 10 beds to fill, or however many beds, and things go south, right? The rule of thumb I was always taught, and this is how we operate. We have at all times enough money in our We Believe account to operate for 6 months without a single resident in a bed. That gives me comfort and confidence that we will be okay. So those kind of things are important. Plan for the future. Know the economic state, right? We've been on the precipice of this, supposed recession that's coming. Fortunately, it hadn't come. It's like it's going to be a soft landing. But now would not be a good time for me to rush out and buy 3 houses to shove guys in. Interest rates are through the roof, right? You know what I mean? The economy's supposed to be taking a downturn. I never know. So know the economic state, pay attention, that kind of thing. This next one's big. Insurance. Most of us, I won't say most, but I would venture to say a lot of us don't have insurance. Actually, do we have to now? We have to have insurance to be GARR? Okay, it's the best business practice. All right. Insurance, man. A mentor taught me this early on, and it has served me well. I overinsure everything, right? It's one of those things where it's not that you can't afford it, right? It's eventually you're going to find yourself in a place, or you might find yourself in a place where you can't afford not to have it. Overinsure. I have done that for every business I've ever operated, and it has never failed me. I'm just a big believer in it, right? It's just in case type stuff. Define your business goals. It helps track your success and progress, helps identify when to reward employees for their efforts, or extra efforts. Create a list of objectives, create a written plan or an outline for how to achieve those goals and those objectives, and then build and implement strategies. You know what I mean? Those kind of things are beneficial to all of us. This next one, a lot of people disagree with me on. I like it. Charity, giving back, donating money. All right. Y'all know the saying, if you've been around certain places I've been around, we have to give it away to keep it. I have found that to be true in all aspects of my life, including financially. Again, another one of my business mentors told me like years ago, he was like, you need to be giving away. At this time, I had just kind of gotten a decent position in an environmental company I was working for, and I was making decent money for the first time in my life. And he's like, you need to start giving more money away. And I'm like, man, I've been broke and a freaking meth head alcoholic for 20 years. I'm going to spend some money. I was like, I can't afford to give away X percentage of my money. And he looked at me and said, you can't afford not to. And that stuck with me. And you know what, man? The day I opened We Believe, we made a deal with God. We have about 4 or 5 different charities that we donate to every single month, no matter what. I will never deviate from it. It has served me well. I personally believe, and it's on here, I think. Where am I at? No, it's not on here. I think that this is probably one of the best financial investments you can make in giving back in whatever that looks like for you, okay? I don't know why it says networking and utilize your, I think something's wrong there. We're going to skip down. All right. This is huge. Personal, are we on the same page? Okay, good. Personal care and employee self-care. None of us do this well enough. I won't say none. I would venture to say none. I don't do it well enough. I try to do it. Self-care is huge. Employee self-care is a must. You guys have been around this thing as long as me. You've seen countless guys, young guys, early recovery. You know, the kind of general rule is once they have a year, maybe, you know, even 6 months, or some places 30 days, right? You know, you can be the program director. That's a lot of responsibility for someone that early in recovery. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. That's not up to me. That's up to you and your policies and procedures. But if we do not allow, or matter of fact, I have to force my employees and my staff to take their days off, right? They all have paid time off. They also all have extra amount of time off over the year. They are forced to take that time off. They're still forced to work whatever program they choose to. All of these things are things that have served me well as a person and as a leader. And it has served us as a company well by enforcing our staff to take care of themselves, right? And it's a cheap work perk. I like that they threw that in there, all right? I'm not even going to get into these. There were a couple more things like the basic, I don't remember what it was, but okay. I want to run down these questions. Does anybody have any questions before I start? So these are just some of the questions, and I might need some of you guys to chime in and kind of help me answer these because I don't know as much as y'all would like me to know, right? All right, what are some examples where a business decision did not align with your moral compass? Right, that's a good one, all right? That goes back to a lot of the stuff we've talked about, integrity, our policies and procedures, okay? I'm a zero tolerance program. If you relapse within 15 minutes, you are packing your things and you're leaving, okay? Now, where are you going is the question, okay? Generally, higher level of care, back to detox, whatever the case may be, right? But we are zero tolerance. That is my choice, and that's how I choose to operate. In my opinion, there have to be definite and swift consequences for anybody, for people like me. Let me say it like that, okay? So that's my norm, okay? And my guys have seen that for years, right? They know if you drink or get high at We Believe, you are leaving, period, all right? But here it is midnight on Christmas Eve, right? And John's drunk, okay? Damn it, John. You know what I mean? And so now John's family died in a car crash when he was 7, right? And Grandma and Grandpa live in California and they're done giving money to John, right? And I know full well if I put this man out on the street, he's going across the street to the hotel and may or may not make it back alive. What do? What's the right thing to do, right? In that situation, I'm going to figure something out. But those are the questions. I let him stay. Now I got 30 other guys in my ear. Oh, you didn't kick John out. You kicked everybody else. You know what I mean? So that's one of 1,000 examples. Please. I mean, Good point. So there, does anybody else think of an example? Is the person who asked this question here? Okay, well then it doesn't really matter. There are a lot of other examples. Again, that's when you have to do in your mind what you believe to be the right thing. That's where I live. You know, I mean, I try to. It's all, generally speaking, there's always a black and a white. This is the right thing to do, and this is the wrong thing to do. Every blue moon, you get those kind of gray areas, and you just have to make a judgment call. This is a good one, and I don't really have an answer for this too well, but this is a good question. Along with financial rewards, what are other ways to reward employees and unpaid supervisors on job performance in a recovery resident setting? I believe that goes back to the self-care of your staff and employees. You know, there have to be creative ways. Again, we force them to take a paid vacation. We force them to take their other 7 PTO days. We force them to work a program of their choice. We try to do a lot of fun things. I take the guys to, you know, golf outings and things like that. But, you know, I don't have a specific question. Does anyone want to chime in on that?
What about bonus, Christmas bonus or something?
Well, yeah, but they're saying other than financial rewards. So, because we do that as well, right? I'll be honest, man, you're gonna have a hard time making me any happier than just giving me a check. You know what I mean? Like I want a bonus. Just give me a bonus, and my guys are usually like that as well. You know, but that's whatever. Okay, so we'll keep rolling. This is a good question, I guess. Where's the line on giving someone a financial hand up and them taking advantage? You're the only person that can answer that for yourself. Man, I got a guy right now who my wife can't stand that I've let this guy stay with us this long. But this guy is a good dude, and he's facing some very, very serious charges. And you know what, man, I'm just going to take that hit, right? Because that's my decision and the autonomy I have as an owner-operator. I'll figure it out. But that's a good question. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like as an owner-operator or a staff member, only you can decide when enough is enough, right? Am I making sense? Anybody want to chime in on that?
It's just some conversation that you want. It's like you see something that coming from up here, coming from here,
Right.
that somebody else may not see.
Yeah.
And that's just why I'm at, because some people you may just have to say, hey, this is my, you know.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion. So technically, as a GARR program, I have to charge every resident the same rate. Okay. I would be lying to you if I ever acted like, for all the years we've been open, I've charged every guy the exact same rate every time. I have scholarship guys. Of course I have. You know what I mean? So again, those are the kind of things you have to decide on your own. Let's see. This is a good question, and I think we'll stop after this, right? How do you handle a referral? Do they get priority if referred from another GARR program? Right? Now, I don't know how to answer that.
That was my question.
Okay. Elaborate, please.
So I had someone call me, thank you, ma'am. I had someone call me the other day that I obviously could not help. They were transgendered. Okay. I am a female program. They are transitioning from male to female. They are not completely transferred yet. And of course, I just explained to them that, you know, number one, you would not be comfortable in my facility. You just would not. My facility is not set up in a way that I can provide for you that another woman is not, or another person won't accidentally open up the bathroom while you're standing there taking, you know, it happens. You know, there's I don't have the programming to support you. I don't have the proper resources to support you. So I referred them to ARC, which I feel like has, I'm close to the Athens area. I'm very close to, the programs that are GAR approved over there. So, I know what they offer. I know what kind of support they can offer them. And I know that they have branched out, and even some of their graduates are doing even more programming and more branching out. So, I referred them, but yeah, I would like to think if my GAR program called a woman comes in, I'm 12-step based, and this woman's like, okay, y'all cuss too much, you drink too much coffee, and y'all smoke too much, okay? I need to go somewhere where y'all don't have enough God in your life, okay? I need to be able to refer them to a religion-based program, and when that referral comes from me, after I've done an assessment on this person, and I'm sending them to a religious-based program, I would like to think that we would give preference to one GAR program to another. So, anyway, that's
what
what.
kind of relationship you got with the program that it's all about. It's all about relationship, really. It's just about relationships. I mean, there's directories, you can refer people all over the place, but if you want somebody to take preference, it's about a relationship.
He's right, and I hope everybody hears this. One of the things I say over and over and over again is when you come to these meetings, we tend to love to sit with the people that we know. I hope that you leave today with at least a couple of names and numbers of people that you don't know. That's what this is all about. And then talk to them and have conversations and get to know them. Then you can refer to them. GAR, every GAR member is not like all of a sudden A++++, let me tell you. But we get to bring them to the table. I learned that myself through Mr. Breck Bagley. That's one of the things that GAR does is it brings those programs that are out there, shooting from the hip to the table that we can have conversations with them and do a little checking under the hood. So he's right. Just because they're on the GAR list doesn't mean go, boom, here you go. They're a fantastic program because they're on the GAR list. It's about the relationship that you have and the trust. The little book that I said that we're doing a book study, one of the things they said about leadership, number one is trust. Just like he said, did they trust that he was going to carry them through and not freak out and have a, unstable environment in the middle of COVID? Right. So,
and to that point, I would, it goes back to the relationship thing, but as far as one GAR program to another, does a GAR program take priority? I only refer to GAR programs. We just won't refer to a non-GAR program. So to answer that question, to some degree, yes. But I think, again, it goes back to the cooperation, right? We are a group of people who are all in this thing together. We all have our little angles, right? But we're all working together. And that's one of the most awesome parts about being a part of this network. But like Todd said, I don't feel like that part gets utilized enough. Like even as board members, it's hard for us because it's great getting to know. Some of you people I've gotten to know better than others, but I understand, I'm not knocking anyone, but man, it might be a year before I see you at another event because of your location or my location or those kind of things. So like Todd said, it's important, network, get numbers of people that, like these guys, they're out in Jackson, doing awesome things out there. In fact, had I not talked to these guys from GAR, I'd heard about who they are. Right? Nick's in the beginnings, by the way. Okay. We would not, I would never have met them. Right. And I would never have known. So if a guy comes to me and says, I live out in Jackson kind of Macon area. Is there any recovery out that way? Well, now actually I know there is, Whereas if we weren't in these type situations, I wouldn't have those connections. So try to get to know folks, All right. Any other questions? All right. I'm sorry that was, thought I was done. I talk a lot, right? I can talk. All right. All right, well, I appreciate you guys listening. So take my little bunny rabbit off now.
All right, we'll wrap this thing up, but we are going to do what I love to do, and that is we're going to take a picture, right? I do want to mention, though, because I think it's very, very important talking about collaboration and connection, and what Thor and GARR do together in this state is powerful. And Tamara and her team are here, and they have been to a lot of our meetings. We appreciate that. And, we're just trying to help our state continue to move forward in integrity and help as many people as possible and do the right thing, right? Because fact of the matter is, we all know, like, it's easy to do the wrong thing in this business, right? And lives are at stake. So with that, we're gonna go outside. We're gonna all stand there, take a big old picture, and then we can move on.